The Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting for this beautiful day here on the 14th day of August. I can't believe that summer is almost over. We always invite local clergy to come here and to lead us in prayer this morning. Today is no exception. Doug Brown is here with us, Pastor Brown from Monterey Baptist Church. We're glad that you're here, and the podium is yours. If you would lead us in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll invite you to pray with me. Lord, we thank you that you have revealed yourself to us, that you work all things according to your will, according to for the good of those who love you. We thank you that though we have separated ourselves from you, that we rebel against you, we lie about you and how we live because we're made in your image. Though we sin, we steal, we do all manner of bad things, that you have sent your Son, Jesus Christ, to fulfill the perfect standard of holiness that you demand. And that if we believe in him and that we repent of our sin, that we're saved and we're literally made new. And it's in that new birth and that being alive in Christ that we see things for the way that they truly are. We see the ultimate truth. And we thank you for that opportunity. We thank you that you did not leave us in our fallen state, but you've provided a way for us to be redeemed. And we pray that you also, as you have led us through salvation, lead our governments, lead our county, lead our board of commissioners. I pray that you bless each and every one of them and their families with long life, with health, with fruit. I pray that you bless each person here that's here to do the work on behalf of the people that live in this county, that you bless all of them as well, Lord, and instill in their hearts a drive for the truth, a drive for righteousness, a drive not for self-gain, but a drive to be a servant, just as your Son, Jesus Christ, came not to be served, but to be a servant and lay his life down as a ransom for many. We pray that we walk through this life with that same attitude, with that same purpose, that we are here to serve, we are here to love, we are here to bear burdens for each other. Please bless this meeting as our leaders and each other pursue the business of our county. And please bless each and every resident of this county with long life, with good health. And we ask all this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And with that, we'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Batcher, would you lead us?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Glad you're all with us. I now call this meeting to order. We will start with item number B on our agenda for the approval of regular session minutes of August the 7th, 2024. Board, I know you've had these minutes early, had an opportunity to review them. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Anything further?
No.
Okay. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number, we have a couple of items here that are presentations. Tom, do we want to take Jeff's first? Or would you rather move some things up?
No, I think we can take the presentation.
Okay, we'll move to item number C. Jeff Harris is here with us today. He is the apiary inspector, and he's going to give a report and an introduction of a new apiary representative, Robin, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Good morning,
you.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Be a minute here, just please. So I'm going to do a summary of my 20 some odd years here in the county. I've started with the state about the same time. I've done counties all throughout the state. My apiary inspection work began some 21 years ago. The work has taken me throughout the U.S. and various counties from Washington, Knox, local Southwest Indiana, et cetera. Clermont County apiaries in Ohio have been doing fairly well, about 50,000. Clermont has been stellar. Since I started about 20 years ago, there was about 60 different sites in the county. And it has grown to almost 200 different apiary sites. And an apiary site is where they keep the bees. So maybe one hive, it might be 100, but that's one particular site. This year, I inspected about 1,000 colonies in the county.
Wow.
Over the 20 years, I've inspected 20,000 colonies approximately physically in the county, and that's a lot. I've inspected a lot for the state of Ohio, but that's a substantial number. Overall, there's quality bees here and there's quality beekeepers. So it's very promising for Clermont County. At this time, I'd like to approach the bench here and show the commissioners a little something here. I've got a little hands-on here, if you would. I want to talk about this in the next segment. Don't worry, they can't get loose, ladies. They're just little bugs, as you might see, but they're cute if you look in the magnifying glass.
And they squash easy too, don't they?
Yeah, you crunch them if you
Yeah.
want. They have more. So I'm going to talk about that right there. And here is the beetle magnification where everybody wants to see it. If everyone remembers back, there we go. Disappeared on me again. Okay. So there's a successful beekeeping in this county doesn't go without challenges. And this is a global challenge here. It has been a global migration since, the late 90s out of Africa. And I suspect it came over here on maybe some hurricane winds, essentially. In the global migration, it probably came to North America first. We have been assaulted by this thing for some time. And it looks like a cute little bug, and that's what the commissioners looked at. It actually looks like a little ladybug, but it is a nasty animal. Some known diversities like varroa mite and the beetle can make things very difficult for the beekeepers. These things started around the early 80s with the varroa mite that wasn't here until then. And now that's over the entire globe. And this animal is moving everywhere that's not cold, essentially. So it's hitting later in Asia. It hit Europe not that long ago, and they just don't know what to do with it. So we've learned to manage it here locally, fortunately. Here on Monday, February 25th, 2019, I believe Commissioner Painter and Commissioner Corcoran were here when I displayed this picture here. And I reported there was an outbreak of this, and it is now endemic. So it's here, and it's not going to go away. In that same year, I initiated a collaborative project. It was with a couple of big entities. One of them was Procter & Gamble and someone else. They supplied materials for us to manage this and do field trials at the same time. I want to report in 2019, that same year, when we deployed a tried and true field experiment, we were able to manage 90% of the beetles in this county. So as opposed to a base county like Warren, where actually we didn't do any kind of treatment or management at all, and theirs kind of went off the chart. There's different reasons for that environment and hauling bees in the area. So if you haul bees in, like if you haul trees in and they have diseases and pests, you expose everything that's endemic here to that. These difficulties aren't going away. This year's inspections did indicate an uptick of this animal. So the vigilance and persistence must not be taken for granted and jeopardize the good work in this county, because the beekeepers work really hard here. And so the animal there that you just looked at, there's probably 6 in that vial. They're very productive. Each beetle is capable of producing 300 beetles every 45 days. So the 6 beetles you see there in 45 days could produce 1,500. Given 90 days, the 6 beetles you see in that container, gone unchecked, could produce 500,000 beetles. Very productive, and they can actually cycle about 5 or 6 times a year. See, we're talking about billions of beetles. There's some beekeepers here that work very hard at holding those back, and they know the exposures and the work they have to do. They probably work almost every single day to keep this pest off of them. And if you don't, you're going to lose the game. We have a beetle or a bee in our area. In most parts of the country, it's called an Apis mellifera. It's kind of like the new bee on the block in the world, and actually doesn't know what to do in response to this beetle because it's never been exposed to it, quite honestly. It came from an African set of bees. They're a totally different design, and they've learned to live with them. It doesn't mean it's a good bee. It doesn't mean it's a productive bee. It doesn't mean it's a kind bee like we have here, actually. We have bees that are similar to lapdogs, quite honestly. They're not aggressive bees. We can work very easily with them. That's why there's still beekeepers here, because if they're aggressive, there wouldn't be many beekeepers. Clermont County does not have the most apiaries, nor the most beekeepers in the state, but they rank in the upper tier. As I said, in the category of enthusiasm, I would place the beekeepers here near the top. There's a good possibility there's a beehive or beekeepers on your street or in your neighborhood. You probably see beehives or maybe don't even know it, that your neighbor has bees. That's why it's a nice animal. There's bees right down here. There's bees a block away. If you turn left out of the parking lot, there's bees almost on the street. There's bees at the wastewater plant right across the street, and they catch bees there all the time. I don't know if you're aware of that in the recent couple of years, but we have a friend of ours that works with the engineer over there to capture the bees and has traps actually to catch bees down there at the wastewater. And they've had a good relationship. So that's a real good story here again. Clermont County could be the quintessential honeybee county in Ohio. The ambitious beekeepers here in the county are very passionate. There are numerous businesses, stores, educational venues, and veteran support programs. This is something the county should capture and celebrate by perhaps a bee day, a bee fest, or even a honeybee theme week, because it is that good in this county. I work everywhere. I'll be working out of country. I work West Coast. I work a couple of states. You have a great story here, and you could really build on that. And I think that the beekeepers will be 100% behind that. So can we roll that video? I want to show the infestation of what this beetle actually does. I kind of skipped that video there. This is something that happens in a hive when these go crazy. Now here I am opening a hive. This is local. It's not that far away. See the beetles there?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that hive's done. When I walk over and I open that box, there's that many beetles. There's more beetles than bees in that box, and they succumb. And the problem is that hive there is dead, essentially. It's just walking dead, if you would. Those beetles will cycle and go to other hives. And it's not a problem just of Clermont County. This is international.
And what do those beetles want in the hive? Do they want the actual production of what the bees does?
Yeah, well, they actually eat the young,
Mm-hmm.
the larva, the honey, the wax. It's everything pretty much the beetles or the bees are putting out. And they chase them around like a Pac-Man animal. They're like little tanks. If you saw it in a little container there, again, they're like a ladybug. Nobody out here saw it, but it's like a ladybug, and you just can't assault it in any way. And these particular bees that we have, the very nice Apis mellifera, that's what all of Europe has essentially, England, Japan. We've imported them all over the world because it's the bee we work with. Whether you call it an Italian or Russian and many other names, it's still an Apis mellifera. And so it's a real docile bee. It's a real docile bee. The scare of the bees being stung, a gentleman here in the front row here is a friend of mine. That's how he works with his bees. And he has hundreds of hives. And this is his bee outfit right here. Yeah. So, of course, he's immune to the sting, like myself. Not everybody is. Yeah. Some of us build an immunity to the Apis. Yeah. Okay.
Well, how do you eradicate? How do you get rid of these?
Yeah, it's a strategy. You can't just. I'm concerned because we built it's called an IPMP, Integrated Pest Management Program. So it took us about 10 or 15 years to develop that, and actually we're fortunate to develop it in that amount of time. With that knowledge, they can be managed without grabbing forever chemicals off the shelf because people get desperate. Then you're at the mercy of the chemical supplier companies, and I won't name those. You know who they are. You know, it's like agriculture. It's a slippery slope. You know, you get involved with it and then you can't get away with it. Yeah. And you can tell just mashing them isn't going to get that job done.
No.
I mean, there's a thrill to kill going in there and just smashing them. Everybody's a beekeeper enjoys that. Okay. Yeah. Just like you said before, Ms. Corcoran is crunching them is fun. Okay. But they make more. Like I said, the numbers are phenomenal, aren't they? I mean, the procreation is unbelievable for that animal. They probably started out with as many as you had in that ball. And unfortunately, if they bought packaged bees, that's what they call them, that haul them in the state, they come with them. And so the folks that do bees and hard work and eradicate them off their hives, they're subjected to import bees. Not the guys that travel them so much on the flatbeds and pollinate all over the country. It's when they purchase bees from the South and bring them up is primarily the situation there.
And there's no other predator for those particular beetles that would eat them, huh?
Currently, no. The only option is, as I'm going over to study overseas, the original stingless bee of ages old, it's a totally different bee. It doesn't tolerate the small hive beetle and basically kicks them out in 20 minutes. So it's beyond my work. I'm not a geneticist, but that may be for future, the next generation, to maybe develop the bees that we have, the Apis mellifera, with the original bee. And they do that with fruit trees and things like that too when they have trouble. Yeah. When they succumb to certain things, they go back to the original tree that's been around or the original animal and develop from there. Okay, so for me, I'm retiring today, my last day. But as I had wrote a letter to the commissioners, maybe they read it, maybe they got a chance to. I will be available to the county here.
Very nice.
I will be supportive of the county. It's pro bono. I'll help any way I can. I was working in Warren County yesterday, just to help some people. It's something I can't just change caps with. I've been in bees my whole life. It's just something a little bit different in a different career. I'll help these people here today. And at this time, I want to introduce my successor that I've been training.
Great.
She has been awesome. She's worked in a queenery for a couple of years. She's got about a dozen hives. She's tolerated me and my bee truck. If you see my bee truck, just to tolerate that is something. For about 4 years, and I'd like her to stand up and introduce herself. This is Robinson.
Come up to the podium so they can see you.
And she's awesome. So anybody's a beekeeper out there, better watch it because there's a new sheriff in town.
It's nice to meet you all. I don't currently live in Clermont County. I live over in Brown, but I grew up here. So I'm
Great.
pretty familiar with most of the people here. Was involved in 4-H and the fair and FFA and all that kind of stuff. So agriculture runs through my blood, you know,
Great.
and totally into bees. And I've learned so much from Jeff and from George and so many other people. And in January, I'll be starting the Master Beekeeper program through Cornell. So
Very nice.
pretty into it.
Very nice.
Don't plan on going anywhere for a while. So
You're lucky to have her. She will be the best inspector in the state of Ohio if she just has a
Wonderful.
little more traction. Again, if she put up with me, that's
Thank you for having somebody to succeed you in
I wasn't
your
going to
work.
leave Clermont County Lurch.
Great. Thank you.
That's great.
And trust me, I've been thinking for about 10 years. I thought I'd only be here for 10 years. I've been here for 20.
Wow. Well, don't leave. We'll take a picture with you. But I just wanted to share a little piece there with you. While we were over at the fair this year, we were actually in the booth, and one of the ladies that was there went down to the honey store that was at the fair, and it became a big conversation about the different types of honey that were there. And so she walked in with a whole bunch of different types that, you know, people had obviously made here in Clermont County and Brown County. And everybody took a spoon out. You know, they're like, well, you can't come in here with this honey and not try it. And so she was like, well, let's do that. So they went and they got a bunch of spoons, and everybody sat down and, you know, tried these different types of honey, whether it was clover honey or it was, you know, a different particular type. And I just want you to know that the type that everybody wanted to walk away with was that dark, what's it called? They make pancakes out of it too. Oh yes, that was it. That was it. That went.
It's really strong flavor.
Yes, that went to number one. So
Best honey for you too as well.
That's what- that's what they said. Well, would you guys take a picture with the board here?
Commissioner Painter?
Yeah.
Would the board want to consider moving up item number 17 for consideration, which is
Sure.
the appointment?
Sure.
So we
Go
need
ahead
a
and do
motion to move that up, and then we'll go ahead and have the board consider that action while they're here.
You bet. You bet. So we will move item number 17 up. That's a recommendation to accept the resignation of Jeff Harris, County Apiary Inspector, effective August 14th, 2024, and to appoint Robin Sizemore to serve as the County Apiary Inspector for Clermont County, Ohio for the remainder of fiscal year of 24, beginning 8/14/24, and to establish a rate of compensation at $20 per hour with reimbursement for mileage at a maximum current rate established by the Internal Revenue Service and in accordance with the current travel policy adopted by the County Board of Commissioners pursuant to and in compliance with Section 90907 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion if you accept this mission.
It's been moved
I'll second.
and second. Anything further? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes, and with that, we'll go take a picture. Thanks, Tom.
Want to stand out front?
By the way,
Yeah.
Commissioner, there is no budget left for this year for this young lady.
Oh,
All
now
right.
you tell us.
So she's taking the job.
Spend it all.
No money.
Appropriate enough.
I already said
Yeah, you did. You did say that.
Yeah.
Put the form going to.
Oh, absolutely.
How's that?
And look here, we'll go in 3, 2, 1.
Everybody say B.
Congratulations.
No, I have one other thing I want to share with everybody here. I did a montage this year, but I'm wanting to do that.
Okay.
And I know you don't get out there and see the beekeepers.
Oh, yeah, you go.
And so I just took about 12 or so pictures, could be 20. Won't take but a
Nice.
couple of minutes to run through so that you
Nice.
can see the beekeepers. These are in your county and at their beehives. So
Oh,
if you
that's
don't mind, take a couple minutes, David, roll film, please. That's Robin there. You can tell she has no experience at all.
None.
These people are right in your backyard. That's Father Dell and Veronica there. Well, that's Notorious George.
Like the hat. Oh,
You can see the bees aren't trying to kill anybody.
Wow.
holy cow, look at that.
There's 10, he's right here.
Oh,
More of the Anderson family.
Oh. Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much.
You bet. That's great.
I
Thank
was
you.
waiting on the honey.
You good, brother.
Thank you.
I'm not a honey producer.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will move on to the next presentation, which is Steve Ferguson at USI Benefits for review and update. Steve, I'm glad you're here today. Good to see you.
It's very interesting. I don't think this next will be as.
Pretty neat, isn't it?
It was really cool. Yeah. Well, let me just start by talking a little bit about kind of the foundation of health insurance, because I think it'll help you understand some of the concepts here. The health insurance that the county has is considered to be what's called a self-funded plan. And in a self-funded plan, there are three components of the self-funded plan that determine what the cost is for the county. The first component is the administrator. In this case, we have United Healthcare, and the administrator's role is to pay claims. Hopefully they do it well. The second is what's called stop loss, and stop loss is what prevents the county from having large expenses that occur, and so you pay a premium for that stop loss, and so anything over a certain dollar limit is then covered by the insurance. And the third is the largest component, which is called claims. So claims are the actual claims that incurred by members here. So the reason I give this summary is because each year you can have fluctuations in claims. Last year was a better claim year. This year is a difficult claim year. We have a lot of large claims that have hit this year, and we'll go through what has comprised those, what make those up, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But the message is that this is a heavy claim year, and so usually whenever you have a heavy claim year, the expectation by the insurance companies is that the renewal tends to be large too. There's an expectation that may continue. I'll kind of jump to the end. We do have a proposal from SEBCO that is unlike what we've had in the past. The SEBCO proposal is a fixed dollar amount. It's a premium. And so you'll actually see significant savings if we were to consider SEBCO as an option. So this year, we looked at it last year, and there were some reasons why it didn't make sense last year. I think you'll look at it this year and say this may be an option for us. So it kind of resolves a couple of things. So given that, let me go ahead and jump to the first page. So on the first page, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things. One is that when we look at the total medical and pharmacy cost and fixed cost, this year through June, our costs are up about 7% compared to last year. That includes about an 8% increase in the medical and only a 1% increase in pharmacy. And so despite that, we've done a nice job in decreasing some of the pharmacy cost over the years. And so I'll get through what that means in just a few minutes. Three areas are really driving the cost today. Three major areas: cancer claims, orthopedic claims, hips, shoulders, knees, that kind of stuff. And then inflammation claims. Inflammation could be anything from arthritis to Crohn's disease or anything that would drive inflammation. So that is becoming a large category. The one area, even though pharmacy costs only increased 1%, we do want to point out that one of the things that's driving, and we've talked about this the last couple of years, pharmacy costs are driven today by what's called specialty drugs. And those are the drugs that you typically see on TV at night that seem neat, and they have all these Broadway type productions to them, but they don't tell you that probably the average cost is probably anywhere from $6,000 to $15,000 a script for some of these things.
But they also have all those side effect costs.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. They do real quick.
I'm always waiting for the bottom one to say, and your neighbors may move away.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
I mean, it's always bad.
So in this year through June, we've actually had a 60% increase in members taking specialty drugs. That's a lot. And so we think that'll increase over time because we know that pharmaceutical companies are having a push with doctors. And so, especially in the area of diabetes, it used to be that people would take a drug called metformin, which cost about $5 a month. Now the preferred is Ozempic, which costs typically $1,500 a month. So people have switched from $5 to $1,500 just to treat the diabetes. And it's very effective, but it increases the cost for everybody, including the county in this. So
Isn't a side effect of that weight loss?
well, it's a preferred side effect by a lot of people. So but it actually is very, very effective in treating diabetes. That's why they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you have drugs like Humira that treats inflammation. And so there are some alternatives to Humira these days. All right, so getting into some of the numbers, I just want to point out a couple of numbers on this chart. As you look at the line that says actual cost, and so we can see the actual cost projected for this year is about 8%. And then what's really the net cost after the stop loss is still around 8% this year. I did want to point out that there's a metric that's used in healthcare, and it's called a loss ratio. This is the ratio of actual claims to what was budgeted. And you can see it's still around 100%. It hasn't increased. That's because when we budgeted this year, we intentionally expected some of these claims to occur. So even though it's higher, we had the expectation for this year already set up. So what's driving medical costs? I put in red the thing that's driving it. We talked about it. Cancer costs, orthopedic claims, and nervous system claims, which includes any type of inflammation, things like that. And we talked about that already. So when you look at large claims, you can see we've got really 6 large claims today that are over 125,000, which is categorized as kind of a large claim. It makes up about $1.6 million, which is larger than we had last year. After the stop loss is paid right now through June, the county receives a reimbursement of just a little less than $300,000. So what's driving the pharmacy cost? I talked about, and you can see at the bottom, it's really the specialty scripts. Specialty scripts have increased 60% from last year, but you can see in that where it says total paid, it's actually hit the county of about 33% increase. And really, it's not, look at the non-specialty drugs, you can see it's actually a 1% decrease because of the contracts that we had with Magellan this year. We had better discounts in the programs, and so that gave us a discount for that. So I mentioned some of the top drugs. Humira is one of the primary drugs that treats inflammation today. You can see the county pays about $12,500 per month for Humira. The good thing is that Humira now is one of the first specialty drugs that actually has what's referred to as a generic or a biosimilar drug. There are 9 on the market today, and we've actually been successful with our pharmacy manager to start switching people from Humira to that generic, and so that's been very successful so far. You can see on here we have 2 drugs that are treated for inflammation, 3 drugs or 3 categories for diabetes, and 2 categories for cancer. So those are the largest treatment that's out there today. So we put in a program several years ago because pharmacy costs were off the chart. And so what we wanted to do was put in something. And so the strategy that we used was to get pharmaceutical companies to actually pay for the cost of the drugs for Clermont County. It's called alternative funding. And so since we put that program in, $3.7 million of Clermont's drugs have been paid for by the pharmaceutical companies. So that's good. And so after the fees that are paid for that program, the county has saved about $2.3 million in pharmacy costs. And so it's been a pretty successful program so far. You can see it's tailed off a little bit in 2004 because primarily some of the drug companies realized they're paying for their own drugs, and so they've excluded themselves from some of this alternative funding. So one of the areas in the drugs that I think we bring this up because it's a concern, whether we're with United Healthcare or with Anthem through SEPCO, the cost of diabetes is increasing. So in 23, we had 592 prescriptions for diabetes, which cost about a little less than $600,000. Just this year, for a half a year, we've had 483 drugs for diabetes, averaging close to about $400,000. So it's really the increase in the treatment that's causing some of this that occurred. And so we are seeing an increase in diabetes in the county, but it's really the increase in the drugs that are being used to treat that today. And so that's a concern. The other piece is that a lot of employers have been adding weight loss drugs, and the county did that for this year, added weight loss drugs. However, it wasn't just a blank check for people to get it. The current requirement under Magellan is that people have to have a BMI or a body mass index of, in some cases, over 30, and then you also have to have the existence of a metabolic factor, high blood pressure, cholesterol, things like that. So it isn't just somebody who wants to lose a quick 20 for whatever, and it wouldn't work for them. So there were some safeguards, but we've had 26 people so far using it for a total cost of about $67,000. So as I mentioned, because claims are increased, the projection for the renewal is about 14%. And so 14% against its initial number. If we were to stay with United Healthcare, we could probably work that number down some, like we have always done in the past. But the initial renewal is about 14% in the process. And that's driven primarily just because of the claims increase. So each year USI goes out to market. We look at all the markets that are out there. We look at all the insurance companies. We look at the third-party administrators. We look at the stop-loss companies, trying to come up with the best arrangement for the county each year. And as you can see here, this is kind of our, in one case, it's final for SEBCO for the self-funded plans. Self-funded plans typically require claims through August before they finalize. But right now, the renewal with our current vendors, which will be United Healthcare, Voya, which does the stop loss, and Magellan would be about 13.8%. That would be about a $2 million increase. We do have final rates from SEBCO, which means it's done. We don't have to do anything. There's nothing contingent for it. Today, that would be at about 8.6% and a much lower increase on something like that. So I think that, we looked at other things. We looked at alternatives for UHC. They range from probably 12.5% to almost 14%. And we looked at some other insurance companies, MMO, and we looked at Cigna as well. But when you look at it, it doesn't take long to look at it and say, based on this today, if we were to close the books, probably SEBCO is the most reasonable opportunity with Anthem for the county. A couple of points I did want to point out is that there are a couple of changes. Let's look at the next page. So these are a lot of numbers on here. There's only a couple things that are highlighted. And those things that are highlighted, what we said to SEBCO is we want to have the same plan that we have today. The only thing that really changes are the $3,200 that we have today for the HSA plan. The government said that has to be $3,300 for next year, so that would be one of the options. And SEBCO has, they do not allow for zero copay for prescription drugs, so we thought $10 copay, which is pretty reasonable out there today for the copay plan. Everything else is the same, so it would be the same plan for an 8% increase in cost. A couple of other things too. SEBCO originally last year offered weight loss drugs as an option. The SEBCO board got together and realized that this has become, in their term, kind of a runaway train for them. It's become very expensive for them to offer this. So they have decided not to cover weight loss drugs into next year. With the potential savings that we have from the renewal for this year, there are a couple of options the county could consider if you wanted to continue that practice for the couple of people in the county. But again, that is something that we can certainly talk about and work through with the advisory committee on everything. So there are a couple of other positives, which are savings through SEBCO. So for instance, each year the county has to file some government forms with the government for the medical plan. There are certain premiums that have to get paid. Many of those are paid for by SEBCO. Some other things that are paid for by the county today are included that will be part of the typical premium. So there are some administrative savings that you have for the program as well.
Can I ask you a question
Yep.
on SEBCO under your specialist office visit?
Yep.
Currently was 50 and 100 copay non-network. What's just 50 straight out for SEBCO or Anthem or not?
So United has a kind of a unique design today. They have what's called preferred doctors and
Right.
non-preferred doctors. So what happens under your program today, if you go to one of their preferred doctors, you have a $50 copay. If you go to a non-preferred doctor, you can have a $100 copay. SEBCO says we have all of our doctors are preferred, so you get $50, just $50. So there's no split copay for any of that program, which I think will be easier for people in the process. I don't think the program really saves a lot of money the way they have this split program. I think it's just
But it's just their doctors. You're not
No,
seeing
it's-
anybody?
it would be all of Anthem's doctors, which the network for Anthem is almost identical to the network for United Healthcare. So,
Thank you.
for sure. Any other questions? Okay, good. Yeah, we've done a comparison of the networks, and there's virtually no change in the thing. Anthem's got a huge network in the process. So we also looked at pharmacy managers. If we were to stay with United Healthcare, we had a 1-year contract with Magellan. So we went out and looked at other pharmacy managers. We looked at Optum. We looked at a company called Smith RX, which is a large pharmaceutical manager. And we looked at a group called TrueScripts. If we were to stay with United Healthcare, we could see savings of about 8 to 9% if we looked at some other pharmacy options. And that would be, if we stayed with United Healthcare. And then the other piece, which is non-medical, is we looked at dental and vision plans, and you can see we were able to negotiate a 6% increase in the dental plan. And as you look at the dental options, we looked at an alternative with Delta Dental. Delta Dental came in at about 14%. We looked at an Optum option, which came in at 18%. Sebco, as offers Delta Dental 2, came in at about a 10% option. And so when you look at it, probably the renewal of MetLife financially probably makes more sense to keep where we're at, unless there's some significant issues that we hear from the advisory committee or from employees. And then with regard to the vision plan, we had a 0% negotiated for them. And we also looked at Sebco offers a VSP option that came in at actually 28% higher. So it makes more sense probably to stay with the current county's VSP program that we have. So, and the considerations, I think if we were to stay with United Healthcare, I think one of the options would be to look at maybe outsourcing the treatment of diabetes and weight loss to a third party. And the advantage of that is that it would redirect members today from taking a more expensive diabetic medicine into something that maybe worked just as well for that person at a lower cost. And only those people that really need the more expensive one would happen. And it would also make sure that we manage the weight loss drugs a little bit more efficiently in the process. This is not something we would have with Sebco, but it's I'm sure Sebco manages, they have their management programs for their diabetes and weight loss as well. So we would also talk about removing specialty drugs if there's a generic available. So if you've got Humira that's out there today, which is $13,000 a month, and you've got the generic, which runs $1,000 a month, you would probably remove the specialty drug and say to people, you want to take the generic unless there's some medical reason why you can't, and then we would make an exception for something like that. So we would also look at offering some type of financial incentive for people to do that, which makes sense in some areas. There's also a consideration. We have a lot of people today who are approaching age 65, or people who are working even after 65. And as you know, today's world, if the person takes Medicare, they're not eligible for the HSA contribution. So the thought would be is maybe we look at replacing that plan with what's called a health reimbursement account, which would basically pay people the same amount as the health savings account, have it in the form of what's called a reimbursement plan, which would not violate the Medicare rules at that time. And then the other piece we've talked about for a while is expanding the current wellness program, which is very well utilized by the county. I think we've got like 90% utilization, which is, I got to tell you, it's probably one of the best utilization numbers that I've seen for all employers around here. And so just expanding that from just having physicals to maybe look at adding some cancer screenings and coaching and things like that. So I think that's it. Any questions?
Just a particular comment. You know, you talked about two things that could be looked into. Definitely, MetLife Dental. MetLife Dental has been a difficult user.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of experience with them, and it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, and I know others have too. That's something that the advisory council really ought to take a look at.
Sure.
And then they really ought to take a look at as far as those weight loss drugs, you know, especially when it comes for the treatment of hypertension and blood pressure, because there are many people, as you know, today, that's the number one thing probably in the nation when it comes to high blood pressure.
So if we wanted to continue that practice, there are some things that we could work with the advisory committee to come up with some alternatives to be able to continue to fund that, with some appropriate caps and things like that around. So,
I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth a discussion and a conversation.
And even your weight loss drugs also.
yes.
I mean, you talk about, well, there's this, it's gone up, but look at the cost of what would have gone up if they hadn't had the drug, and then they end up having a stroke or end up having heart problems,
Right.
et cetera. I think it's a big savings just to have those drugs, even if they have to take the original instead of a generic. And some of those generics, I'm sorry, but a lot of those generics are not what they're cut out to be. And the question then comes, where do those drugs come from? Yeah.
So it's interesting when you look at the science today for the weight loss, that the current science says that some of these drugs will reduce a person's body weight as much as 25% in 1 year. The challenge is that they stop taking the drug, the weight comes back on probably in the same time period. But when you have a 25% reduction in body weight, you have a correlation reduction in health risk for diabetes, cholesterol, heart disease, all those kind of things too.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And really 20 pounds in weight makes a huge difference
does.
in your blood pressure.
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody that's ever experienced that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
You bet. Well, thanks.
Oh, you're
Great
welcome.
job.
Thank you. Appreciate your help.
Yeah, you have your bugs. Thank you.
Claire would like to take those home with her.
No, Claire would not. No, no, I was fighting horseflies this morning. That was enough for me. No, please don't share.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all this.
Thank you for 20 years. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good, thank you.
Sir, we appreciate
You too, thank you.
We will move on to public participation. Is there anyone here today that would like to participate as a member of the public?
Right on here, get a jar of honey.
You would? Absolutely. Please come up to the podium and state your name and your address. And before you start, we reach public participation during this time. The board doesn't answer questions or engage in a debate. No member of the public may comment about a matter that is not within the purview of the Clermont County Commissioner's responsibilities. We're not expected to comment on matters brought before the board, and each speaker will speak once and be recognized. And you have 5 minutes. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Won't even take 5 minutes. My name is Elisa Cooley. I live in Loveland, Ohio. Do you need the street address? You're not going to come after me.
No,
We
we're
don't
not
have
coming to visit.
We don't
you.
have time.
No.
I thought we'd go for
I
lunch.
just have a few questions. I have not been to a commissioners meeting. However, I'm kind of in tune a little bit. This is about the Clermont County shelter, which you've been inundated with issues about it for a couple of years now. So my question is, I'm not here to comment on anything because you're the commissioner, so you should have the answers, and hearing things piecemeal never solves anything. So my question is, number one, when people get up and speak, because it's posted sometimes as a video where someone with the shelter or a volunteer from the shelter has taped it. So that's where I get certain information. And then I know some of the people who've spoken. So for me personally, as someone who has volunteered for the original shelter, which was horrible before it became the current shelter, which was a huge improvement in terms of facility, to where it is today. And through a grant as a senior, I worked the front desk for several months, and that was an eye-opener in a good environment, but it was a real eye-opener. And I've fostered dogs, and I've volunteered, and I've done all that, and I still contribute. But my question is, number one, is the shelter ever an agenda item that's created by you, the commissioners? Or are people just showing up and they're speaking as a public thing? But do you ever put it on your agenda where you're in control of it being a topic? So that's one question. The second question would be, is there anything in your minutes that addresses questions that may have been asked of you and you've responded to? I mean, you were on the shelter is now, instead of being on Fox 19, now it was on Channel 12 last night at 11 o'clock, and as the Cincinnati Animal Care was. And so it's becoming a big topic. And I think that, and people are complaining, you know, they're not hearing back from you or whatever. So I think it behooves the commissioners, I've been on board of directors before, to respond to some of these things and address them so that it can either be fixed or they can go away because you said, well, we've already fixed it. But, you know, the public doesn't know. So I would like, as a former research analyst also, to be able to know as a member of the public where things stand so that it doesn't continue. So you're not rehashing the same things over and over and over again. And that's why I'm here, not to rehash. You've heard it all. So the question is, based on what you've heard it all for 2 years now, where are we? And only you, because you're the decision makers, only you can answer those questions.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's time to have Angie, would you come up, please, and give us an update? And maybe this will help you. Angie will be able to, she's going to give you an update on the shelter and tell you, and we've been doing this almost every meeting now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Correct.
but just, and of course, the good news doesn't get published. But go ahead, Angie. She'll explain to you what's happening. I think it'd help you out.
It
Yes,
was. Yeah,
yes.
It's always recorded.
Go to your website
Right.
and go into the minutes.
Absolutely. So
Absolutely.
we're moving up part of our county staff elected official discussion, and this is Angie Livesay. Angie has been assigned. She's a deputy administrator. She works at the shelter, and she has the full authority of this board, you know, to operate that shelter and to commit costs and resources that are needed. Obviously, that's brought back to the board, but Angie, you're there every day, and by all means, give us an update of what's going on at the shelter.
Yes, I have a few updates for you today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We're very appreciative. We got the donation of the sunshade a little while ago from some volunteers, and that has now been installed by our facilities team. So I really appreciate everyone's work on that. That is in the area of towards the back of in the back of the shelter where there's some turf. It's where we do some meet and greets, and it's where we have the play group. So that's really going to add a level of shade that will be really helpful to everybody. I know that a volunteer presented a concern about mold and mildew. So we do have an air quality test scheduled for next week to go back and check that out. Really exciting update I have for you is that the inmate crew is working very, very well. This is a really efficient, really hard group of people. This has been a just tremendous addition to the shelter operations.
And Angie, they're there
Yeah.
3 days a week, correct?
Correct. Yep, they're there this morning. Yep.
And they're cleaning and
Oh yeah, and they are down and they're getting in it. They're doing it. So
good.
I did meet with the architect regarding the outdoor kennel project. They have some really good options that they've already presented us. They've given us some preliminary drawings that we're reviewing. They're really looking at some creative ways of adding those kennels that we would like outdoors. My most exciting update that I'm going to share with you today is that our in-house population is down to 48. As long as I can remember, certainly the last several months, we've had around 70 or more. So to be down to 78 is a huge
48.
improvement.
48.
48.
Yes, 48. To be down to 48 is a huge improvement.
And the reduction in an actual adoption fees, that helps?
Yes, absolutely. As you know, you approved the temporary fee reduction last week. It's absolutely having an impact. I think we also have a lot of community members stepping up and offering foster homes for dogs. I think the best place a dog can be is with a loving home. So this is really, really improving the lives of the dogs. Which brings me to Jerry. I have a picture. Yeah. So we got a picture over earlier this week. So Jerry is one of the dogs that benefited from the reduction of fees. He went to a home over the weekend. I think he's living his best life there, settling into the couch. So appreciate the adopter, the new mom, giving us the picture of Jerry there. So
Took over 2 cushions. Like,
right,
okay.
right. Yeah, he's got him in the back, and yeah.
Jerry.
So that was exciting. He benefited from that. So
Good.
that's all I got.
Well,
So-
thank you.
What else can we do for you at the shelter?
As you all know, I've told you you're very, very supportive of me. Every time I talk to any one of you, you ask what we can do, what we need. Mr. Eigel and I have worked on a few different plans in place of some of the things that do need some work. We're on those. As we learn about new concerns, I note them and we work on them. We've got a few things in process right now that I'm really excited about. You have before you today another kennel attendant position to be filled. So we're trying to get that staffing worked out. That'll be a huge improvement. So
Thank you for all your hard work. You've been.
And Angie,
you've
let
been
me
on
just
it.
add, I think too, the staffing issues, it's like every other agency of trying to get people to want to work and come in. It's not that we're not trying to get people up there. It's just getting people to come in and apply for the positions that we have open. Angie's working very hard and we keep advertising. It's just getting the people to come in like every other opening in the county. We have human resources here. How many openings do we have in the county right now? Do you know?
There are a number of different departments have different staffing issues, but there are challenges in some other departments.
And I think that's like every other company. It's just getting people to want to come and work. It's not that we're not trying to fill the positions at the shelter. Angie's working very hard trying to do that.
And one of the things to really talk about just for a second is that the Clermont County Commissioners, we hear the concerns that we have over at the shelter, and we're committed to solve those problems. Some of those problems don't solve real easily when one of those challenges is the fact that you have to modify a government building. The modification of a government building is a little different than a private building. You know, private folks can just say, hey, I'm calling the contractor. They're coming over here. They're going to fix this. They're going to install this. We as a commission, we have to go get a professional architect. That architect has to be bid because the people of the government say, we want this money spread around. We want it done on a competitive basis. So we have to let other architects compete for those contracts. Then we have to review them and see that we picked an acceptable architect. Then they can be put on that job to actually go out and create the plans and specifications that they need for the modification. And then when that comes back, we have to bid a contract to the subcontractors that we want to actually employ. And then that has to be, and that I have tried to make that's a hard thing for people to fathom, because if you've never been in that particular arena, it's just, that's not how it works in private business. You know, private business, you just pick the phone up and say, hey, I need this. And that happens pretty quickly. And that's no excuse. You know, in government, it takes too daggone long. You know, we all know that, and it's a tough thing. The other thing is there's one other problem there we can't fix. We can't fix the location of the shelter. People complain about that being next to the firing range. It has been next to the firing range for years. It was always there. And so the firing range is not used every day. Does it impact dogs and loud noises? It does. Is that an optimum place that it was located all these years ago? No. Would we love to move it? Yes. But that is something that, again, like the project that I described, it takes a capital project involvement, and it takes a team to decide what property you're going to buy, where you're going to locate it, you know, to make those wheels move. And so that's not something that is going to be fixed in the next year or next 2 years. I mean, that's a long range project. So, you know, we try to.
Leadership here has been long in making. And obviously, if you have a good leader, people will want to work.
We have a great leader
Right.
now. We have a great
And-
leader there. She's really stepped up.
And she's in the process of looking for a full-time shelter manager there. And, you know, again, that takes time. HR has to line up those potential candidates, and then there's an interview process, and it takes some time. It is. It
you
is.
have to have done it before or know something about it.
The thing I would tell you is there is no one on this board that isn't in love with dogs. You know, we are all either keepers of animals or dogs. We're not going to let anything happen to those dogs. And the thing that comes back to us is that there's a lot put on us for that situation. But when you look at it, those dogs are here because of non-responsible people.
That's right.
And then they're entrusted in our care. And we try to give the best care that we can.
I agree.
You
And
bet.
David, back to what you were saying about how long it takes, the industrial washer and dryer. I mean, we're having to jump through hoops. We got to go through to even be able to install that. So that's going to take time. It's not that we're not working
Some
on it.
real infrastructure needs that we just don't have the current capacity to handle. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know.
I know.
You've been there.
It's more about when I was there, it was run by people and actually the employees, the kennel staff. They were all experienced. You would walk in there and you would never know there was a dog. There was no smell, and they had cats and dogs at that.
Yeah.
There weren't diseases. There was, and it wasn't because it was new, because I didn't work there 20 years ago. But the people who worked there really enjoyed working there, even though it was very, very hard work. But it was pristine. There were records for every penny spent, every penny donated, every dog that came in. I mean, there were all sorts of things, and it just ran really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Clermont Animal Care didn't get what they wanted for a budget, unfortunately, to my anger, I think it was before you all took over, the person who had been responsible before, who's now in Cincinnati, kind of sabotaged the place. In other words, there were mice everywhere.
Oh, yeah, we
Well, we
know.
know.
We
We
know.
know.
We had a mess.
And so people who used to work with Clermont Animal Care came in of their own because they were appalled. They couldn't believe it, and they cleaned all that up. So it was kind of like, well, you didn't give me what I wanted.
Mhm.
Keep, the budget, and that's what happened. And it's,
In the other side of that too is we have a robust wardens department that includes 4 wardens. And I know if you check the record on that, when you look at, cases that they have actually uncovered in Clermont County, a lot of those animals that come into us are again from non-responsible owners that keep pets when they shouldn't. And then, and that becomes a warden case, and those animals have to stay in the shelter until that case is resolved. And so, but thank you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Angie.
You bet.
Let me just make one other comment, please. We've been accused that we don't like animals. We don't like dogs. My dogs don't know they're dogs. They run my house. I had a little dog that I got from the animal shelter, and I had a little Scruffy for 18 years. She didn't know she was a dog. You say you want to go to grandma's, boy, she went to the car. She knew where she was going, made her day. But I don't think any of us up here could ever mistreat an animal. I know we couldn't. Dave's had his pit bull. And my little dog right now has its own couch. I mean, he goes wherever he wants to go because he runs our house. So believe me, we care about the animals.
well, the shelter is only one piece of all of your responsibility.
Yep.
County, I understand.
And that's why we sent Angie up there.
I'm telling you, great.
Right. And always keep in mind, we have a huge responsibility for children in this county too. And, we're always tugged at what the funding needs are across the county. So thank you. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you for coming.
Any other county staff, elected official discussions, Tom, while we're on that subject?
Yeah, if we'd like to have Sandy Todd come up, she has some updates on our personnel policy that we've been working on for the last couple
bet,
of
Sandy.
years. So I think she's just going to cover the first couple of chapters.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I will try not to take too much time. I know you have a full agenda today, but as you know, we have been in the process of reviewing the Personnel Policy Procedure Manual for necessary updates to reflect current practices because parts of this manual have not been updated in probably 20 years. So it is overdue. Throughout the manual, the goal was to simplify language, take out what I call legalese and statutory detail that's not necessary, and to take out kind of some administrative process, like what we do with things that aren't necessary in the manual. There may be some exceptions, but the intent is to incrementally review some of these updates with you and then approve the policy manual all at one time because there are sections of policy that are referenced to other sections of policy that might conflict until we get done with that process. So for today, I just want to briefly review chapter 1 and 2. I sent each commissioner individually the red line versions for you to review all of it, but I'm going to try to just hit some highlights today. And at the end, after you review that or anytime later you have questions, just let me know and we can work through that. So for chapter 1, it includes the introduction, scope of coverage, rights and obligations of the board, equal employment opportunity, definitions and that sort. We indicated in this chapter that no manager or department head can vary the board's policy unless the policy manual gives them that ability. And there are some sections in policy that gives directors discretion on how to drill it down into their specific departments because each of them vary a little bit. Nothing in the manual is intended to create a contract with employees. We updated equal employment opportunity protected classes because some of that has changed over the years. We clarified that although the board is the legislative authority that sets policy for certain federal and state laws, that independent elected officials or appointing authorities can adopt a different family medical leave policy and designate their own equal employment opportunity officer. So currently the board has designated myself as HR director as the EO officer, but there's logistical challenges in being able to go and investigate maybe an EO complaint of another elected official, affect either discipline or corrective action if necessary. So this will allow them to designate their own if they choose to do so. We added that not all policy requirements are written down. And included language that employees are expected to follow directives, conduct themselves with professionalism, cooperation, and to treat both coworkers and the public with equality, dignity, and respect. It's an expectation we've always had. It's just not been in there to that point. Chapter 2 is about recruiting new employees, processing new employees, and appointing classified employees. Appointment of those classified employees. In this chapter, there was a very outdated section on affirmative action. We removed that because our equal employment opportunity policy already commits to full compliance with federal and state anti-discrimination laws and the principle of equal opportunity employment. So we've removed that. What you want in a policy manual is to reflect what you actually do, and this did not. So we took that out. As with chapter 1, the EO protected classes were updated. One change I made is the posting of job opportunities. When that language was originally written, we were back to a job hotline, paper applications, all that's changed. So with it now being web-based, accessible 24/7, I've changed the job postings from a minimum of 14 days to 7 days. And if we get sufficient applicants, if not, we'll extend it out, but that gives us the option to do a little shorter posting period if we choose. I removed the residency requirement. I believe there's been some changes there. Probationary periods were in Ohio Revised Code as 120 days. I am changing that to 180 days, unless there's any concerns with our departments on that.
We do have some exceptions, like attorneys are a 1-year probationary period. We have some collective bargaining agreements that call for longer, but the minimum would now be 180. We added language that probationary removals are not appealable to the State Personnel Board of Review or through grievances unless a union contract allows that. That's in Ohio Revised Code, so it's just making that clear. We clarified language that if an employee accepts or requests a voluntary demotion to a lower paid classification, there would be a reduction in pay accordingly. There were a couple of chapters that was addressed in 2 different sections that were either ambiguous or conflicted, so we've reconciled all of that through the policy. And finally, I removed language that would allow post-offer inquiries into workers' comp claims, sick leave, injury impairment, because those create legal issues and we should not be inquiring that of applicants. And that's the highlight.
Can I ask you a question back to 1.04, Chapter 1? No, I'm sorry, 05. The change policy that departments will keep the hard copies. Is there any way to make that responsibility that it lies in the control of the department head and that those policy manuals are kept up to date?
The policy change is
It just
it's indicating an electronic version is available and will be maintained
okay.
on our intranet. I know with Job and Family Services, they have a state system primarily. They push that out on their state system as well so that it's accessible. But if an employee is request a hard copy, they can actually request that and we would get that to them, whether that's thumb drive or an actual print copy, because it can be voluminous.
Right.
But this kind of changed that where it was mandating them to keep hard copies available for every employee because they used to actually hand those out.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah.
And that's just not feasible.
But
so.
it just says that the departments will keep it. Who's the responsibility lying within? I'm not talking about the state or the federal. I'm just talking about even our policy manuals.
What section were you looking at?
1.05, just policy development changes and dissemination. Is there any requirement that a policy leader have the manual, even though it's online or not, but keep it up to date? Even though you're making it up to date, but they should at least have it available and ready and not say, well, I don't know where it is. I haven't read it. I haven't looked at it. Okay.
So we maintain it on SharePoint.
I
and
know
that
you
should
do.
be the point where everybody goes.
That's fine.
It's the exception of like JFS where maybe
Right.
they don't
Why?
have to.
Yeah, I know how they do
They
that.
have to copy it over. So yes, we can
Okay.
make sure. And then any internal department policies they have, they would be keeping on their
Okay.
intranet sites as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? No. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the
Okay.
changes.
We will return back to public participation real quick, since we kind of went away from that and we were still open. Is there anyone else that would like to participate as part of the public here today? Then I would go ahead and close public participation. And we will move on from there. Item number E is the consent agenda. Board, you've had this agenda presented early to you, had the opportunity to review it. Are there any items that need to be removed for further discussion in the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, we will move on to item number F, which is the non-consent agenda. Non-consent agenda starts on page 4 with item number 10. Item number 10 is a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners adopt resolution number 103-24 to approve payments to vendors in the total amount of $2,532,053.81 as outlined in the BCC approval invoice report for checks dated August 14th, 2024, BCC directed prepaid invoice reports, and the procurement card transaction report as presented by the county auditor on August 12th, 2024, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, item number 11. Hi, Jessica. Morning.
All right.
This is a recommendation to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, or in his absence, any other board member of the County Commissioners, to execute a notice of intention to exercise lease option between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and Prime Partners Incorporated, located at 2801 Florida Avenue, Suite 14, Coconut Grove, in Florida 33100, relative to the retail lease agreement for leased office space at Beachmont Plaza, 550 Ohio Pike, number 121, Cincinnati, Ohio 45255, for the Beachmont Title Office at the base rate of $40,226.60 plus 2% annual exclusive to the estimated property cost as stated in the Article 4 of the referenced agreement. It's effective 12/1/2024 through 11/30/2029, with all other terms and conditions of the lease agreement to remain in full force and effective, contingent upon the receipt of the required purchase order.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 12.
All right. Item number 12 is a recommendation to execute the Second Amendment to the lease agreement between the Board of County Commissioners, Clermont County, Ohio, and Presley Ridge at 7162 Reading Road, Suite 900 in Batavia, Ohio 45103. Previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on 2/25/23 and renewed on 9/27/2023 for the lease of 898 square feet of office space located at the Clermont County Family Support Center building at 2400 Clermont Center Drive in Batavia, Ohio 45103. To revise Article 3D as relates to the base level for the percentage change in the Consumer Price Index for the Midwest East North Central Regional Index at the beginning of each renewal from the second half of 2022 to the second half of 2023, and further to renew the lease for an additional 1-year period commencing on 10/1/2024 through 9/30/2025 at the rate of $15.52 per square foot for the annual amount of $13,936.96, which reflects to the change in the CPIU at the amended base level and is the first of the 3 subsequent 1-year renewal terms available pursuant to Article 3 of said agreement, with all other terms and conditions of the reference lease agreement and amendment thereto to remain in a full force and effect.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Anything else? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
I abstain. I sit on the FCF board.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. Item number 13.
Good morning.
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 Item number 13, recommendation to approve resolution 104-24, authorizing Thomas J. Eigel, County Administrator, to execute grant application Ohio 2024-01800 with the Federal Transit Administration between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and the Federal Transit Administration in the amount of $1,230,972, with $984,777 from federal funds and $247,195 as local share for the purchase of replacement vehicles and a new routing system to improve Clermont transportation connections, fixed and direct routes.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 14.
Jesse.
Good morning, Jesse.
Morning.
Item number 14 is the recommendation to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute change order number 2 to the Maintenance, Support, and SUAII Purchase Agreement between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and Motorola Solutions out of Chicago, Illinois, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on 8/26/2020 and June 1st, 2022, and subsequently amended one time. This is relative to the installation of link layer flash updates for the Clermont County, Ohio Public Safety and Service at no additional cost to the county for modifications identified as change order number 2, attached for the extension of the completion date to 12/31/2024, with all other terms and conditions of the referenced agreement and amendments to remain in full force and effect.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I will second.
And moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thanks,
Thank
Jess.
you.
Item number 15, Lyle Balloon. Morning.
Morning. Item 15 is a recommendation to award the bid and execute the contract for project number 6402-60194 for the White Oak Lift Station relocation and upgrade project located in Pierce Township pursuant to the plans and specs to Stouffer Site Services LLC out of Morrow, Ohio, for their lowest and best bid received on June 20th, 2024, and a total amount not to exceed $1,979,080 in compliance with the terms and conditions and contingent upon the release of the necessary purchase order. So their low bid was 106% of our engineer's estimate. This will replace the existing lift station that's right in the front yard of a property owner right now. We're relocating it down the road. It's going to include about 518 feet of new 8-inch sewer. It'll have a generator. We're replacing the force main, so there's almost 2,400 feet of new 6-inch force main.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 16.
Item 16 is a recommendation to adopt resolution number 105-24 to determine to make improvements for the construction, operation, and maintenance of the 9-mile Bradbury Transmission Main Phase 2 project located in Pierce Township and designated as project number 6401-60178 in conformance with the detailed plan, specifications, and estimates of cost and financing, and to approve the request to advertise for bids pursuant to the plans and specs, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. Schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Thursday, September 5th, 2024 at 10 a.m. with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, September 12th, 2024 here in the Office of the Board of County Commissioners. They will be publicly open and read aloud, and the notice will also be posted on the county's website. So this will be a new 12-inch water main that'll start. This is phase 2. So phase 1 was a short extension of about just a little over 1,600 feet that we constructed along Beeheimer in coordination with Pierce Township. They were doing a road widening. They put curb and gutter. And so we wanted to build that along with their project. So we didn't come back and tear up their new infrastructure. So this will take off where that left off, continue along Beeheimer down to 9 Mile, and then up to Davis Road, and then end at the intersection of Davis and Michael. The engineer's estimate on this is $3,710,030.
And if I'm not mistaken, this will replace the current water main that's in there that's in the creek. Is that right?
No, this is all new main.
Different?
This is a transmission main. So it's going to serve a lot of properties primarily along 9 Mile that currently don't have access to water. And it's going to help strengthen our distribution system primarily up in the Cherry Grove area. So we replaced the main along Hopper Hill with 12-inch, and this will kind of continue that.
It.
We were actually, years ago, we had a project in our capital plan to build a new elevated tank right behind Home Depot in Cherry Grove to help with fire suppression. This allowed us, once this is constructed, this will allow us to not have the need to build that.
Good.
Correct.
Okay.
Good.
Fantastic. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 16. Do I have a motion for approval?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Item number 17 has already been dispositioned with our county apiary, and we will move to item number 18. Morning.
Morning, Board. Item 18 is a recommendation to resolve to approve and authorize changes in the annual appropriation resolution number 181-23 for calendar year 2024. We have a couple supplemental appropriations. The first is the Sheriff's AG continuing professional training bargaining unit salary, an increase for $37,768.96, and this is the expense side for the grant that they've received. The second one is a health insurance fund, fringe benefits for $2.5 million. Appropriately with Steve Ferguson and USI here today. This has to do with the health insurance. One thing, it is costing the county more this year. Our claims are higher than expected. Also, he talked about those stop loss claims. How the budget does work too is we still have to pay those claims out, which increase, but we do get reimbursement now for those. The revenue, though, does not offset the budget. So as we continue to pay more for those claims, we do get reimbursement, but we have to put the budget in place to pay them.
So you're paying them all up front and then getting
Correct. I think
reimbursement?
it comes back pretty quickly to the reimbursement. That is not all this $2.5 million. Actually, we've already gone through the full PO for our prescriptions,
Okay.
the RX plan. So we need more for that as well as the increased claims. And we have some rebates still coming. That hasn't come in yet, has it?
Okay. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 18. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation?
Just,
Go ahead.
just a conversation that I think, I know before we've talked about cafeteria plans, et cetera, but I think it's time we go out there again and start looking at other things. I mean, not wanting to put this cost on the county employees, but this is just ridiculous, the cost of even prescriptions today for people. When you're going in and getting hit for $30 just for something that used to be $5 and a zero payment time before, and especially for those who have children. A kid gets an ear infection, you're in big trouble out there, and I don't know. I just think we need to start looking at it again for next year.
Okay.
Take a look. Sorry, but that's my comment.
Any other comments? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that concludes our non-consent agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda at this time, Tom?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, I'd move to item H. I'm requesting an executive session pursuant to section 121.22 G1 of the Ohio Revised Code to consider the employment or compensation of a public employee or more public employees. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes, we will move into executive session. We will return and conduct further business. Thank you. We have returned from executive session. There were no decisions made and no actions taken. We will move on with our regular agenda. But first, we'll go back to item G. Are there any additions to the agenda?
We do have a personnel action, Department of Job and Family Services. So Sandy, I'll let you present that. But
Or-
add it first.
And at first, we have a personnel action I'd like to add to the agenda. Do I have a motion to add?
I'll make the motion to add.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call. Gail?
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, Sandy, thanks for being here. Could you inform the board?
I have a personnel action for Sabrina Martin, who's an investigator 3 for a termination probationary removal effective close of business today, August 14th, 2024.
Board, you have heard the reading of a requested motion for the termination of employee on probation and removal. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing further for addition?
Further, sir.
Okay, then we will move. We have already talked about county staff elected official discussion. Any follow-up on that? You guys did a great job today. Then I'll move to member comments. Board members, any comments concerning the meeting today? Or things going on in Clermont County? Hearing none?
Aren't things going on? There's a lot
Always.
going on. There's good
Always.
stuff going on.
You
in
bet.
Clermont County.
Great things. With that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn our meeting.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail?
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, thanks for joining us today on this August 14th, 2024. We thank you if you watched today or participated, and we will see you at next week's meeting. Thank you.